Good evening, everyone. It is time for our message from Emmaus. And today is our fourth lesson where we are going to talk about the Son of Man. And this is an interesting passage because I think this term is often misunderstood by Christians. Christians often think of this as describing Jesus' humanity. We know in Christian theology that Jesus is fully divine and fully human. He is not half one, half the other. He's not a demigod. He is fully both. And some people will think that the Son of Man is a description of Jesus' humanity, and Son of God is a description of his divinity. It's not actually true. There's even one hymn that describes Son of Man, Son of God, as if that's the two sides of Jesus, when actually Son of Man is actually a stronger term of divinity than Son of God. There are other people in the Bible, great people of faith, who are called Son of God. It does not imply divinity. But this term Son of Man, as Jesus used it, does. And so let's talk about where that comes from and where we can understand it in this whole description of the Son of Man. So let's go to Daniel chapter 7. And in Daniel chapter 7, starting with verse 9, we see this vision that Daniel had. He's already seen a vision with four terrible beasts that are later interpreted to be, by an angel, they're interpreted to be kings that will rule over kingdoms from Daniel's time to the time that the Messiah comes. And then he sees this part of the vision. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothes were as white as snow, the hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. We see a courtroom here, a place of judgment. Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. The other beasts had been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time. So here we see these four beasts have lost their power. 3 were already destroyed, but here the court was open and the beast was stripped of his power. He goes on in verse 13. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man. Okay, I want you to picture this in your head. He is seeing a vision, and he sees someone who looks human, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. So everybody agrees the Ancient of Days is a description of God Almighty, God the Father, seated on his throne, a flaming throne with a river of fire flowing from it, thousands upon thousands attending him. Millions of people, hundreds of millions, stood before him. And then this one who looks like a human being, at least looks like him, comes with the clouds of heaven, and he approaches the Ancient of Days. So he's not God, the Father, but he's led into his presence. And he was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Okay, so we see this picture, and Daniel is troubled by this, and he goes and talks to others and say, what is this? And he said, the beasts are 4 nations or 4 kings that will rise from the earth. But the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. This kind of is a parallel to King Nebuchadnezzar's dream back in Daniel chapter 3, where he saw this statue, and the statue, Daniel said, represented 4 kingdoms. And you have King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom that was the golden head, and then you have the kingdom of the Persians, Medes and the Persians. Then you have the kingdom of Greece, and then finally you have the kingdom of Rome. And then that ended with a stone cut out of the mountains, not by human hands. It comes and crushes that idol, and then that stone grows to fill the earth. Here you have the 4 beasts symbolizing those same 4 kings ruling over kingdoms, and then the Ancient of Days destroys the last king, and then a new kingdom comes. And this king is called one like a son of man. And I believe that what Daniel was saying was he appeared to look like a man. And yet, this term son of man is used by Jesus. Many of the Jewish rabbis and the sages interpret this to be a messianic passage. And in fact, this is the beginning of that question of how can there be a Messiah who is coming with the clouds when we know that Zechariah says that he's going to come riding on a donkey, humble and lowly. And so one interpretation of this was, this is conditional. If Israel is worthy, he will come in the clouds of heaven. And if Israel is not worthy, he will come humbly riding on a donkey. Again, they've almost got it right. He's going to come both ways, but he's coming at different times. Okay, so we know that this is something that Jesus used of himself. Back in the 70s, there was a movement called the Jesus Project. And it was actually a very liberal theological organization. And their idea was, let's just figure out everything we can say for certain about Jesus. And they didn't believe in the biblical inerrancy. They believed the Bible could make mistakes, but that you ought to search it and try and find out what you could tell for sure. And I bring that up because 2 things they said they were sure of. One was that Jesus preached about the kingdom. His message was about the kingdom of God coming. And the other one was that he called himself the Son of Man. The reason that they distilled it down to this is that they threw out anything that was a fulfillment of things that had been said before, or that the church said about him later. And it's interesting, the church really never did use that term, Son of Man, very often. The early church preferred Son of God. But when you read Jesus' words, he said Son of Man all the time. Who do you say the Son of Man is? And he would use that term again and again and again. More than he used the word Messiah. It may have been that Messiah had taken on such baggage that Jesus knew if he used that term, then they would immediately expect him to be a revolutionary war hero, that he would start a war. And if he called himself God, they would immediately reject him and crucify him. And so he used this term to say, think about it. I am the Son of Man. Think about that passage from Daniel. So let's go to Matthew 26, where we see the trial of Jesus. And they are accusing him of all sorts of things, but nobody can get their story straight because it's all false narrative. And then in verse 26, it says, "But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, 'I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God.' Verse 64, Jesus said, 'You have said so,' which means The words you're saying are true, but maybe not in the way you mean them. But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. What do you think he's referring to there? He's talking about Daniel 7. He said, Daniel 7 was talking about me. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, he has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death, they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you? Okay, so Jesus is saying this Daniel 7 passage is talking about him. And so what is he saying? He's saying that he is one who looks like a human being, and in fact we know that he really is human, but he's more. He's human and he is divine. And he said he's the one coming with the clouds of heaven. But here Jesus says, this is in the future. You will see the Son of Man coming in the heavens. The high priest says, are you the Son of God? And he said, you're going to see the Son of Man coming in the heavens. Now, this person is distinct from the Ancient of Days because he's led into his presence. But notice what it says about him. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. It says they will worship him, and that this is okay with the Ancient of Days. So this is legitimate worship. This is not worship of a false god. This is worship of the true God. One who looks to be human at least, and is not the Ancient of Days sitting on his throne, but he's worshipped legitimately. Now, some will object to this. They'll say, oh, well, this is a human being, so it can't be Jesus. Jesus claimed to be God. But in reality, Jesus also claimed to be human, and he appeared as human. Daniel said he looked like a son of man. So Daniel saw this person who looked human, and yet he was given the right to be worshipped. Others will say, well, this word means to be served like a king. Now, let's get to that. This passage is a passage that was originally written in Aramaic. One of the small passages in the Old Testament that is not written in Hebrew. It was written in Aramaic. This word to be worshipped, let's be honest, later in Aramaic writings, it was used of people who would serve or do work for someone. The word is plak. There's actually another word for worship in Aramaic, and this word in other places is used as just to be served. So it doesn't necessarily have to be used of someone who is worshiping divinity. However, that's an excuse to say this is not about worshiping this one who is to come. Because if you look at it in context, every time this passage is used, this word is used in the Aramaic passages in the Old Testament, every time it's used in Daniel, it is used of worship, either legitimate worship or illegitimate worship. Where in Daniel 3, it's mentioned that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are not worshiping the idol that Nebuchadnezzar sets up. And he says, is it true that you do not pluck my gods? You don't worship my gods, or you don't serve my gods, or worship the idol that I have set up. When Daniel is caught praying to God, and they say, you should not be serving other gods, Daniel says, I will not serve your gods, meaning I will not worship them. this word is always in Daniel used as either legitimate or illegitimate worship. The only other place it is in the Bible is in Ezra. And in Ezra, it is used of those who serve in the temple. So again, it's used of serving God, and it's never used of anything else in the Bible. Other places later, it's used in other ways in Aramaic. But in the Bible, it is always used as serve as in worship. It's also eternal. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Now, others would say, okay, that's true, but Jesus didn't set up his kingdom. And I would say, not yet. Because when Jesus is on trial, he says, you will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. So Jesus actually subverts their expectation for a Messiah who will set up his heavenly kingdom forever on this earth by saying, yeah, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen the next time I come, in Jesus' second coming. So yes, Jesus did not set up his kingdom. But then you think about it, in the parallel passage in Daniel 3, the stone that is cut not by human hands crushes the idol of human nations, and then it grows to fill the whole earth. Often Jesus would say, the kingdom is near you. The kingdom is like a mustard seed. It starts small, and then it grows. Often he would use terminology that would describe the kingdom of God as something that's starting small, starting in your hearts, that the kingdom is always already among you, but it is going to fulfill itself later. He said, the time has come, the time is coming and has come. What does it mean, coming and has come? Well, the time has come for the kingdom, but it will come in the future. It's going to reach its fuller fulfillment in the future. So this passage is a passage that describes this coming Messiah. And actually, if you go 2 chapters into Daniel 9, we see that Daniel is still getting these visions. And Daniel is visited by an angel, Gabriel, in 9:20. While I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sin of my people Israel, and making my request to the Lord for his holy hill, while I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I had seen in an earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice. Let's skip down to 24. This is what Gabriel tells him. 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgressions, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring about everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this, from the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the Messiah, the ruler comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and have nothing. So there's 77s. We know that it's not 70 weeks, although this is the word that the Hebrew people would use for weeks. It's 77s, 70 weeks of years, which would be 490. But then he said, there'll be 7 sevens and 62 sevens, which is only 69. We're missing a 7 here. But the 69 sevens, which would be 483 years, is the time from when they were told to rebuild Jerusalem till the Messiah comes. And we know approximately in history when this proclamation came, where the Persian Empire said, you can go back and rebuild. The Babylonians ripped you from your land, but you can go back and rebuild your temples. We actually have in the Museum of London the proclamation, Cyrus's cylinder, where it said, I told the people they could go back and rebuild their holy places. Not limited to Israel, but they're part of that. And they go back and rebuild. And we know when that happened. And it was 483 years before the time of Christ. Now, this prophecy means that the Messiah had to come in the time of Christ, and that he would be killed 483 years after the proclamation. And we know that had to be in the life of Jesus. So therefore, this one who is like a son of man, who is not the ancient one sitting on his throne, but who is sitting on another throne, and who is to be worshipped by every nation on this earth, he'd come in the time of Jesus. He's not sitting on his throne physically on this earth, but he is on his throne at the right hand of his Father. And one day, his throne will come to this earth, and we will all worship him. Every knee will bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's the prophecy of the Son of Man. And if you read it carefully, even before Jesus came, you would know that this Messiah who came as a man would be worshipped forever as God. That will shake your foundations. But that's what Jesus said he fulfilled, and that he would fulfill even further. I hope that that's exciting to you. The people on the road to Emmaus, the two disciples, said, didn't our hearts burn? This kind of thing should burn as we are just passionate about knowing who Jesus is, and that God planned him long before he ever came. And he planned for you too.